So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the EU awaiting changes in the UK leadership before making their next move on the protocol. So this from Coveney makes a lot of sense, or Coveney, from the 21st of July, just one I've had on the back burner. Still relevant though, because the EU are still waiting. The legal action they've taken is still there, but you never know, they could end up, suspending it again, just like they did before, if Sunak takes over. But I think if Liz Truss wins the Tory leadership contest, I can see them just pushing ahead with the legal action. The EU will wait and see the approach of the next UK Prime Minister before deciding its next move in response to the protocol, Minister of Foreign Affairs Coveney has said. And I'm just thinking, because Liz Truss is the one that's pushing the legislation, I don't think she can backtrack from it. The legislation, her stance is the thing that's kind of gotten her to where she is now. Scheduled meetings were due with Sinn Féin, the Alliance Party, the UUP, and the SDLP. Coveney said he couldn't meet Donaldson in the end because of scheduling issues. He says, don't read too much into it. These things happen, I guess. The EU is hopeful a change in Prime Minister will herald a new start in relations between Brussels and London, Coveney said, and I don't think that'll be the case. So long as the ERG exist within the Tory party and have so much power, I think they mentioned that they have, 80 MPs, which is a huge voting bloc. Despite the fact that they're led by that clown Marc Francois, they still have a huge voting bloc in the Tory party and still have a lot of sway with who becomes leader and what kind of policies pass. Coveney says, I think there is certainly a willingness to work towards a new start, if you like, in relations between the British government and the EU, and certainly that's the case from Dublin. So essentially he's saying that the EU are willing to work with the United Kingdom, try and reset relations, but I just can't see that happening. Not with this line charge. It's no secret the relationship between the British and Irish governments has not been good in recent years. I would say it's probably at its lowest ebb for a long time now. And that's because the British government has decided to move away from partnership and cooperation, which is true that this is all on us, the British, which in many ways has been the foundation of success of the peace agreements, which will be 25 years old this year, and that's something worth celebrating. It really is. But the top and bottom of it is that cooperation is what got us to, the Good Friday Agreement. It got us to these successes, and the fact is that taking unilateral action, doing it our own way, regardless of consequences, is not helping anyone. Coveney said he did not have a preference between Truss or Sunak. I think that's a lie. But he said, it's not up to foreign governments, foreign officials to talk about internal affairs of other countries. For the most part, they stay out of it because you don't want another country kind of criticising you. He said, whoever succeeds Boris Johnson steps away from the. He hopes whoever succeeds Boris Johnson steps away from the contentious move to override the protocol by way of domestic legislation at Westminster. And again, it's going to be very difficult for Liz Truss to walk this back. Collective responsibility does exist. Technically, Sunak is kind of responsible for the bill as well. But given the fact that he really didn't want a trade war with the EU whilst he was Chancellor, does lead me to the possibility maybe he's got at least half a brain more than Liz Truss does. Coveney said, we'll work with whoever the next leader is, whoever the next Prime Minister is. Of course, we hope that the new Prime Minister won't pursue a strategy of breaking international law, and that's a bold statement right there. Let's see how that plays off for us, because I don't think the British government care about international law, haven't done for a long time now, and breaking their word to Ireland and the EU, and again, Britain's word is worth nothing. But yeah, some optimism here from Coveney, which is interesting, given the situation of the last year, really. We'll be talking about some other things regarding grace periods and the House of Lords. That should be an interesting one, I think. But I think he's being optimistic, maybe, or maybe he's trying to portray optimism. I don't know. He's hard to read. I don't know a lot about him. He seems like a straightforward guy, from what I've kind of seen of him, which is not much. There's a lot more people in the audience who know a lot more about him than I ever will. But there's some optimism there that maybe a change in leadership will help. There's optimism in Whitehall that a change in leadership will also help reset relations, but it's less about the person who's in charge, more about their content. What are their goals? And I think Liz Truss becoming the next Prime Minister will be an absolute disaster for so many reasons. But I think Anglo kind of EU relations will be at the lowest level for a long time if Liz Truss takes over. She'll be an absolute disaster. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.